can't defraud other people, right? So when they can't tell you what they want to tell you because you got motherfuckers like me that's gonna tell you that's a goddamn lie, that shit ain't true, I don't know where they got it from, but this is where you find the real shit at, right? So that put all these motherfuckers knuckles to the ground. When the real leader gone, anybody can fill the position long as he look the part. When the real leader come, they all got to take a back seat and the motherfuckers know it. And leadership is, as leadership does, is what you can see into the future. You got to know how to operate like that board game without hitting the motherfucking buzzer. That means you got to be surgically precise with your precise moves. And the more precise you is, as Sun Tzu said, the greatest victory is the victory without combat. That means that you beat your enemy mentally first. Because the mental victory precedes the physical victory. So if you can defeat him in the mind, you done already defeated him before the battlefield ever even come into play. Now all you got to do is take it a step further and eliminate the battlefield from the equation. It's a battlefield of the mind at that point. Right? And from the battlefield of the mind, you know, that's when you start getting them clowns flipping out into the open, thinking that they masterminds and they really just deceiving the people with flashy minds. Just because a motherfucker got pretty words, can talk loud, fast, hit you in the stomach with his words with an emotional fervor, don't mean that motherfucker know goddamn shit about what he talking about. And how you know is they'll start trying to not talk bad about the motherfucker telling the truth, but they'll try to ignore it or shy away from it, evade the answer to the question of who this motherfucker is. They don't want to talk about that shit. Because now they know they going to have to bow down to something greater than that bullshit they've been running on the people. And that's the goddamn truth. And when you hit with the truth and you start showing people that the truth is being told, then motherfuckers' feelings be really hurt at who you find out, but knew they was lying when they was telling that goddamn lie that they told when they lied about the bullshit they lied about. That big white lie was a little white lie that created a whale of a problem. And that little white lie was that we came on ships. But the ancestors that was here when the motherfuckers came said they didn't see no goddamn ships. Because they knew that they was going to run this bullshit, they needed a record of it. Them stupid motherfuckers was stupid enough to say that our ancestors' cognitive dissonance was so great when they came on their ship that they didn't even see the ships in the ocean. That don't even make sense. They've been trading with Khan Mansa Musa. They've been trading with motherfucking the Chinese emperors. How in the fuck they don't know what a boat look like? So when these people come and they say they don't see no ships, they got to be talking about a slave ship because we still can't find one. Right? We find what you call deteriorated relics of one, but we got a 5,000-year-old ship from Egypt that was under the fucking sand some goddamn where. They got a 5,000-year-old ship from Egypt. They got a 15,000-year-old ship from China that they didn't pull from under the Pacific. And we still can't find no slave ship, and that shit wasn't even that goddamn long ago. And the slave ships they do have is, they said it's a replica, and the replica is from a drone. This shit doesn't make sense. They're not going to keep telling us that we dumb because we talk country. We not going to keep buying that shit. They not going to keep fucking with us and thinking that this shit doesn't have a consequence. Because the consequence is not obvious on the face, what they call a prima facie consequence. That doesn't mean that the mechanisms under the bottom, the cogs in the wheels ain't falling from under the machine. The machine might look like it's whole on the outside, but if you start looking under the mechanics, you
Call
find
from Q.
that motherfucker don't have no engine. That motherfucker don't got no drivetrain. That motherfucker ain't got no interior. It ain't got no sound system. It's just a shell of a system that used to be. That was always a fraud created in the minds of the people by some very some sick talking psychopathic maniacs who decided to usurp the people of the land and steal their birthright. The only thing about it is they always got to give you a way to discover it. And if Big Mama tell me to find the problem, I'm a bloodhound on the case. All them country boys know what a bloodhound gonna do. He gonna sniff that shit out. He gonna sniff that shit out. I don't care where you put it at. If it's around, the bloodhound gonna find it. Big Mama gonna tell you what to sniff out, we gonna sniff it out. Right? Them country boys know the land. We know how to track a motherfucker across the land. We can watch the animals and know where you at from 1,000 miles away. Because we talk to the fucking animals, idiots. The animals is generated within the field. The only difference between what you think and what an animal think is changing the radio station. That's it. If you can learn how to change the radio station on a totem dial, you can tune in to all of the animals and they gonna tell you what's going on clean across the land. They gonna tell you the condition of all of the people clean across the land by tuning in to their frequency. And only the master of masters can tune in to every animal. And that's one of my curses. I'm Dr. Doolittle. While you think I'm doing little, I'm talking to a lot. You looking at me laughing in the 3D, but I'm looking at you in the 12D talking about what the fuck is his problem. He must don't know what I'm doing. Right? Motherfuckers always know it until it's time to show it. They don't got no receipts then. Right? So, that was the topic today. It was to give fair warning to people fucking with God's chosen people. The jewels of God is these priestesses and these princesses, these princesses and these princes that rising up to become the next generation. And some of them got higher spiritual rank. All of the old souls come back and they don't have the same tolerance for that simplistic, narrow-minded bullshit, right? So, I got a question in here. Let me see what it say. Okay, so he asked me, my sister Robin was born with a veil on her face too. In the females, the females born with the veil on are priestesses by birthright. And they born to be a priestess, which is they are some kind of public type person. They have a certain type of outreach to people, hold families together. They be the glue. For the males, they become normally some kind of psychic seer. And some of those females be very highly psychic, born with the veil. That's always a sign of the spiritual class in our culture when they say you born with the veil on your face. Ain't no such thing as most powerful clans. You have clans that have more priests, or you have clans that have more warriors, but we used to do shit mano a mano, and sometimes we would have two warriors that would fight for hours non-stop, but we stopped doing that a long time ago when people started getting soft. So it became what we call today modern sports and athletics, Olympiad games. But we used to have different people with challenging different fields to show their prowess. Like blacksmith would have a contest to, and they might forge a sword or some kind of weapon or some newfangled idea they came up with at the contest, and they had to forge it under the eyes of so many apprentices, which they actually teaching them how to do it. And so we had professions that developed a certain way that is still seen in the modern culture, but because most of us we can't watch the long game and we can't watch the real time game, right? We can only watch the short memory game. The short memory game can only go a couple of minutes back in time. They're like goldfish with short memories. So we don't remember the culture like that, or we can't see the consistent repeats from the ancient culture to the modern culture in the learning to read the different petroglyphs that tell certain stories from an era that's no longer here. The problem that we always have in academia is taking sides and studying the knowledge of historical events as told by historical personas. Because when you understand history, it's just as much theatrical as it is actual. So you have to learn to read it with an objective perspective, and you have to read it like a tarot card as more so than an actual event, where you can get the energy substance from the lesson and you can forget about the one-sided view of the lesson. If you get the energy substance of the lesson, that means that you have to see it from first, second, third, and fourth person perspective. You have to also see it from what you call the overhead perspective, or the overstanding, and the underbelly perspective, which is the understanding. When you see all those different angles without taking sides, then you have created a crystal reservoir of knowledge based around that one topic that can branch off into many different subjects without you losing the essence of the lesson, right? So, Sekhmet is the mother of all of the lion or cat clans. So you got, you know about Bast and you know about Sekhmet, but every cat, right? Every cat species have a goddess that represents that cat species. Like, it's just it's the way that it's set up. Because they are totems. The totem animal and the system of the totem is the earliest system of spirituality, and that came from a time when we first started studying nature itself. And then we first started studying nature itself, we got into classifying people by the animal nature that they studied and how he interacted in nature, and that became that clan's or that class totem animal, right? And this is why you have mascots on varsity jackets to this day. And these totem animals then formed into totem groups, right? So you have the bird clans, which falls under Thoth, which falls under the mental reservoir of air. And Aquarius is ruled by air, but it's also the water bearer. So it's the waters from what we call the rivers of heaven, which is the stream of water that runs through the upper atmosphere. It's an actual river. And you can look it up. It's called an atmospheric river. So this is what we talk about. The Aquarius, this river will overrun its banks, which causes water anomalies because the system is out of balance. It tilts the water out of the jug, so to speak. Now, it's a whole lot of other symbolism that go with that. But when you understanding that the changing of the times become significant with which zodiac sign will be needed by that birth trait, the character that's going to be born into the child born under this zodiac trait at this time will be needed to perform this function in order to help us all recover our balance back in nature. Because when we get out of balance with ourselves because of the vices of man, we have to use a calibration to nature and what's natural to regain the balance within the humanities as we speak. So we weed out what we call the nefarious traits, characters, and characteristics, and we embellish and encourage the benevolent traits and dispositions and characteristics. But Bast is the like the lion is the king of the jungle because Bast is the queen of the cats. And the king of the jungle he ain't shit without his pride, and his pride is in his family, and his family is ran by his wife, right? And the pride of the wife is in the kitchen, and the kitchen is the heart of the home. And home is where the heart is, and the heart of the home is where the ones you reside with make it a home. It's an environment. It's a feng shui, right? So that's what we all trying to get back to. So I'm going to take a couple of guests before I end this. Styles by Nina. Always dancing. Make this shit so... Oh, I'm getting carried away over here. So I'm going to give her a couple minutes, see if she come in. I see you, Christina. Yeah, so... Yeah, y'all gotta learn to leave God's chosen ones alone. Like Christina. She got the covering, the army of the sisters are having, y'all don't really want, like motherfuckers think they want to bob, y'all don't really want to do that. You know, she mind her business, you know, do her little thing in her lane, and we follow the rules of the culture. Don't get in grown folks' business if you don't know what you're talking about, right? If it ain't hurting the kids, and you stay the fuck out of their business. And when y'all start getting into that shit, y'all don't know what y'all be getting into. Okay, so Laffy 10, come on in and see what you gonna say to the clan.
Crystal baby bird? Yes, sir. Back with the big dog. What kind of game are you playing? I'm not playing the game. See, when I came at you honest and direct, you wouldn't give me the time of day. You tell me what kind of game you play.
So the question I'm looking at is, what is the purpose of a seer? We're not gonna go through that. I think she was having a conversation and accidentally accepted too soon. So, somebody asked me what was the purpose of a seer. The purpose of the seer is the seer's job is to give people guidance to be able to overcome obstacles and difficulties in their life. You can see ahead of the time so that you can offer a priestly service to people to help navigate through life. This is a school. The seers are your hall guides to the classes, right? And so people need to know when they register for the next class, they have to go to the seer sometimes when they can't see it on their own. That's when you get stuck in life and you don't know what to do or where to look for guidance, and then you go to a seer. Most people look for seers when they can't figure out nothing else to do. They don't look for seers before that, unless that's the culture that they grew up around, like a gypsy household or something like that. But generally, in the mainstream society, the average person won't go to a seer until they don't know what to do with themselves. At that point, they reaching for straws. They'll try anything. And when they go to the seer, sometimes if they sincere and they tell them, you know, from the heart, they can change their life for the better and give a whole new spin on how somebody living. How can you tell if you real? Poke yourself with a pen, and if it hurt, yep, you real.